up with Chris talking about the genesis of CTI. Thank you.
So I'm going to mute everybody, and each speaker will need to unmute themselves. Okay.
So Ken, do you want me to start now? I can't hear you, Ken.
I would say go ahead, Chris.
Okay, right. So it's hard to know quite where to start in terms of speaking to the genesis of this CTI program, but I will start in January 2015, when Jim Healy had just become the chairman of the RSCDS and Helen Russell had just become the next chairman in line, the chairman-elect. And they had a retreat, which in this country is called an away day, with other members of the management board. And their main concern was, and I'm quoting, getting more people into SCD and increasing RSCDS membership. So that overall aim was discussed obviously on that occasion, but then over the following year or so, it was decided to come up with a strategic plan, which eventually got called a business plan. And that was to cover the period 2017 to 2020. The process of developing this plan was quite comprehensive. Some of you may remember that headquarters sent out a survey to all the branches asking for their views on all sorts of aspects of the way the RSCDS operates, not only the teacher training arrangements, but many other aspects of it. And some of you may also have been contacted by people from headquarters. I remember being a telephone conversation with Helen Russell, for example, when she put a lot of questions. This was while I was in New York. She put a lot of questions to us on the way we felt about different aspects of the RSCDS operations. Anyway, that all eventually came to a sort of focus in the form of this business plan, which was issued in late 2016. And it had 5 main aims. And I'm going to share my screen now, because the third aim had to do with training teachers. And obviously, if you don't have teachers, you don't have more dancers. So in order to get more dancers, I think there was a general feeling that something had to be done to increase the number of teachers. Anyway, I'm just going to share this document with you. Where has it gone to? So I hope people can see that. If there's a problem with seeing it, then I don't know what I do about it, but
I can see it fine here in the US.
Okay, great. So this is from this so-called business plan, which was issued late in 2016, and there was this quite an important section here that I'm putting it in front of you. I need to be able to manipulate it a bit. So excuse me a second. Okay, yeah. So the branch consultations were taken, as I was suggesting, very seriously, and it came up with, I'm just going to, it's on the screen in front of you, but I'll just read it over quickly. Teacher training too inflexible, too academic and stressful, Current system generates teachers who know how to teach technique, teach in a regimented way, and often not friendly enough. Now, I don't want to start a debate about whether any of this is accurate or inaccurate, or overstating the case or understating the case. That's not my purpose. I'm just laying out in front of you what RSCDS headquarters came up with as a result of those branch consultations. So then the next item, review the teacher training system, including course should include training and assessment on people skills, social skills, and approach to teaching, being welcoming and encouraging. And then the next bullet point, teacher training course is too expensive. And from the North American perspective, I think one could add to that the teacher training course, and this obviously refers to the part 1 and part 2 courses, it's very expensive because people are often required to travel thousands of miles. I mean, that people in the UK generally don't seem to understand that, but it's a very obvious reality for people in North America, and indeed in other places like Australia. So, and not only also is it expensive to get to the training and to undergo the training, but at least in the US, people don't have much vacation time. If you take the 2-week part 1 course and then a 2-week part 2 course, a few years later, that's just about your whole vacation time for the whole year gone in one shot. So those are major concerns, and it doesn't matter whether your potential teacher has wonderful footwork or not. But even if they do have wonderful footwork, they may still not be able to undergo training and become a teacher, simply because of these other constraints, the constraints of money and time. So moving on to the next item, and this is, and I'm nearly at the end of my little spiel. So what actions did the business plan provide for? And this was the one that's relevant to the discussion today. Carry out a review of the teacher training system, syllabus, current assessment criteria, and consider the creation of another assessed course for teachers of social dance, as well as the introduction of digitization of the exams system and use of IT where appropriate. And this, I just want to add one brief comment on that, which is that now that we have, now that it's very easy to take videos of classes of people teaching in a whatever kind of class it is, and transmit that video anywhere around the world, it's more than feasible to have a training system which operates largely or even entirely remotely. You can have the trainer or mentor, whatever we call them, in one part of the world, and the trainee in some very remote place in another part of the world, but they can be supported during their training through the sending of videos to and fro. Anyway, that will perhaps lead into a little bit of what Deirdre is going to say next, and I think that's it from my side for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. That was a great setup, and so let's move along to Deirdre and see what's actually come through several years later.
Chris, you need to unshare your screen now.
Okay. There we go.
Right, let me go through all the bits. Share screen comes first. Share screen. Okay. That one? No.
No,
This one.
no,
Hang on.
lost a shared screen now.
I haven't lost it. It just has
Let's do that one anyway.
that one anyway. Yeah.
Oh, okay. We might have to go through 2 steps, technical issues.
Okay, yeah. And
You're seeing,
slideshow up there. Okay, can you see it?
do
I
you see the
cannot see it, Deirdre.
slideshow? Do you see the slideshow or do you see Deirdre's screen?
We
That's
see
it.
Deirdre's screen.
Yeah, well,
This
we-
is exactly what happened before.
Yeah.
Keith.
Yeah, she needs to get out of this one.
It's just not in presentation mode.
No, it
Yeah,
will
okay.
change now. We'll go change it again.
That one there.
Yeah, we're in that one.
That's the correct one.
Now you should be seeing the presentation mode.
That's great.
Good. Good. Okay.
So,
Okay. CTI, Core Training for Instructions, fits in between Teaching Skills course and the Units course. It doesn't replace the unit system, it is a choice. And this is a comparison between the two, showing the advantages of each approach. For the units, the overall approach. The classes with the candidates, there's no initial need to have your own class, led by a tutor. There are 10 years allowed between finishing part 1 units and beginning part 2, and there's certain limits between the units 1, 2, and 3 as well as those between 4 and 5. And there is an exam at the end of each unit with accompanying fees for each of the units, and in the end, the candidate becomes a teacher. For CTI, you're teaching your own class, no extra time per week is needed, because the trainee teaches at a regular or a shared class. It's apprenticeship with a qualified trainer who's a trained CTI teacher. If the trainer isn't local, the classes can be videoed and sent to the trainer, who then returns feedback. There's a form for the trainer to record progress and use during discussion with the trainee, and discussion can take place separately via Skype or phone or Zoom or whatever you wish. The time limit is 2 years to complete the apprenticeship, 2 years for the course, which can be extended if there are extenuating circumstances. They have to be very extenuating circumstances, I might add. And the final assessments made by the trainer, there's no formal exam. The onus is on the trainer. A video is required of the final class, along with the trainee's lesson plan and the trainee's feedback form, trainer's feedback form, and the instructor, the trainee becomes an instructor. Pros and cons. For the units, you share experiences with others on the course, chatting in person with the other candidates, group feedback. The tutor and the other candidates can be lifelong contacts for idea and guidance. The course organizer arranges for the stooges to be available. The candidate doesn't initially need to have a class to work with, although of course later it's essential for Unit 4 record of teaching practice. It requires attendance at a scheduled classes. The candidate must attend a certain minimal number of hours in the scheduled candidate class. The costs associated with the classes, where there's an exam cost per unit and adds up to £145, Great British pounds, payable to the society, plus whatever the branch requires to cover the costs of the hall and the tutor, or the cost of attending a residential school. Possible vacation time, if you're going to a residential course, as Chris already said, residential courses takes generally a period of 2 weeks, which can certainly eat into your vacation time in North America, which is not nearly as generous with vacation time as the UK is, nowhere near. And opportunity at the end for the units is to progress as an assessor, a tutor, an examiner, a medal or DAA assessor, festival adjudicator. For that, you do have to qualify through the unit system. With CTI, you have a low one-time fixed cost, £40, payable to the society when you apply for the course. And there's no extra call for the costs for the hall because the class is there anyway. You use your own class at regular scheduled times. No extra time needed to fit in another weekly class. No need to find a space for a separate class. You provide videos for the trainer to review progress and provide guidance. You do have to provide videos in order the trainer can provide the feedback, and your progress can be tracked. Even if the trainer lives locally, you would still use video from time to time. You must have a regular class to teach. It can be an existing class with no teacher, a new class you want to set up, or a shared class with another teacher who wants to share because he or she wishes to go on vacation from time to time and not have to worry about who take the class. You do need to complete the units to progress further. This is as far as you can go in this system. If you wish to teach at a more experienced level, you would maybe go for the unit system rather than CTI.
Could you just explain the purple and blue color coding?
Ah, hang on, because I went. Strengths and challenges. The challenges in this are purple. And the strengths are blue, I think. That's what the meanings are. It's partly for me. Hang on. Yes, yes. Yeah, the strength, no, exact. The blue is the strength. Sorry, I'm looking at my thing here. And the challenges are purple for this. Okay. So for the units, the tutors haven't necessarily attended a training course. There are tutor training courses, but the tutor may not have had the opportunity to attend any. There is no mandate to do so, but it is very much preferred that they do. There's an exam for each unit, and it tracks your course. Exams can be stressful. If there is no tutor or class in your area, you may have to travel a considerable distance to access both tutor and candidate class, and this adds to exam stress. I can think of one candidate who used to have to travel from Winnipeg 12 hours each way to attend weekend classes, because that was the nearest there was. The tutors self-assess their achievements. They're judged on the exam results of their candidates. CTI, the trainers have to complete a 6-hour course. The 6-hour course is mandated. It ensures standardization of expectation and proficiency. It's done via Zoom, although there's a possibility of a course at summer school, any one of the summer schools. There are a limited number of trainers so far, as the system's still in the early stages. There are 34 worldwide at the moment, 12 of which are in North America. I haven't added in Chris and Sue as North America, but actually as they've lived there, it would make it 14, whichever way you like to look at it. There are no exam, but the final assessment and the pass is made by the trainer. A video of the final class and assessment is reviewed by a moderator. It may be viewed by a moderator. It's always done in the case of the trainer's first trainee to be presented. After that, it's at random. Where are we? Standards and expectations. The standards are in blue, and the expectations are in dark red or purple, okay? For the units, the standards for dancing and teaching at an advanced level of precision. The exams judge against the standards. Each candidate gets an assessment form showing their level of ability, and it's given to the candidate so they can see their results. And the tutors also receive this to self-assess their achievement and see this so they can address any necessary shortcomings. For CTI, the standards for teaching at both the general and the social class levels are tailored to the individual. The teaching's intended for a social or a general class, and it's tailored to fit an individual trainee. And I can tell you afterwards what the difference is between social and general, but I'll leave that. You require the ability to coach rhythmically and walk the steps. There's no expectation regarding personal dancing ability. It's not examined, but you must understand how to teach the breakdown of the steps. You get a feedback form showing the level of ability. The feedback forms show the progress of the trainee and the fulfillment of the listed goals, the core skills, and the tasks. The moderator uses the final video, the trainee's lesson plan, and the teacher's feedback form to verify the trainer is assessing against the expected standards. This does not change the fact that the trainee is now a qualified instructor. The moderator independently views the video and fills in a feedback form. This is then compared with the feedback form filled in by the trainer. And this is to ensure the trainer is assessing against expected standards. The trainer is moderated from time to time, so the onus is on the trainer. If the moderator doesn't feel the CTI trainer's evaluation is accurate, he or she has to state where there's a disagreement. And in these cases, all documentation and video are sent to the convener of E&T for review, which could include a review by a second moderator, a discussion with the trainer, a recommendation for the trainer to undertake further training. As I said, onus is on the trainer. Which to choose? For somebody who's aiming to teach advanced dancers, demonstration groups, competitive teams, probably wouldn't go for CTI, which is aimed at social and general classes. Those who prefer to learn as a group with other candidates might prefer teacher candidate units. Those who want to complete the course in a short time or enjoy learning at summer school would prefer units if you have the vacation time to do so. For CTI, if you feel a series of formal exams would be stressful, you might choose CTI. You prefer to go at your own pace and not be constrained by a time limit, although you do have the 2 years, you'd be better off with CTI. And if cost is consideration, CTI is certainly far more affordable. If you've only got time for attending one class a week, CTI fits in better because you're trained on the job as an apprenticeship. An apprentice, that is, to your trainer. Prospective candidates should select whichever scheme suits their circumstances. One system isn't better than the other. One may suit an individual best. And sources of information, the RSCDS website under Learn gives you everything. Scottish Dancer had Deb Lee's article, the one we just had, the article by Deb Lee's, which is aimed as a general overview, an excellent one. TAC September article by Fiona Miller is aimed at prospective trainers. And there's in the Toronto Set and Link, there is an article, Why Would CTI Be For Me, aimed at the dancer, which was written by myself. That's it, folks.
Click then.
What do I click next? This? That
Yes,
one?
and again.
And again. Okay.
Thank you, Deirdre. That was very informative. I hope so. I've been glancing in and out of the chat. I know Alison's been monitoring more thoroughly than I have. We don't seem to have too many. Do we have any questions at all come up in chat? I think people prefer to talk, don't they?
The difference between general and social.
No questions in the chat. The group is small enough that probably we can do individual.
Yes, I agree, Alison. Yeah.
Jeffrey, feel free to unmute and ask your question.
Okay, I was wondering about the relationship of the basic teaching skills course, which to me is just a kind of a quick once over, just a quick introduction to what teaching's all about, really, rather than a training. Will that still be offered?
Yes. Yes, the CTI is halfway in between. It's basics teaching skills, as you say, is a taster of what somebody might expect, whichever they went through. So that's all it is. CTI is aimed at the general and social classes, and I can give you a description of what these are if you wish, as opposed to the units. It's just another choice to make. And it does give you a formal, you do end up with a trainee receives a statement of proficiency as an instructor of SCD from the RSCDS. You get an actual statement of proficiency, which you can, frame if you wish.
It's a mixture of bits and pieces
Yeah.
out of Unit 3.
Any other questions for either Chris or Sue?
Yeah.
Jeffrey, another question? You're muted, darling.
I don't want to hog the questions, but another thing that came up when Chris was presenting, I don't have the exact quote, but when Chris showed his second screen, there was the mention where it referred to sort of an alternate form of training, it talked about putting exams being done remotely by presumably Zoom or internet or something like that. And I was wondering, was that just with reference to the CTI, or was that for all of the exam process? Maybe a better way to say it is, could the regular
Yeah.
training, the unit training, be done remotely too now, or was that recommended? Has that been acted on?
Yeah, well, at that time, the people had there was an open mind, as it were, in the Education and Training Committee, as to whether there was going to be a pretty comprehensive overhaul of the existing training system, in which, of course, you play a very active part, Jeffrey. Or whether there should be an additional training course which was more geared to the general and social classes, geared to people who couldn't afford to go to do the other thing, geared to people whose footwork would never pass the Unit 2 level, and so on. So in the end, it came down to having two separate systems. But I think I know that the then convener of ENT, Malcolm Brown, spoke from time to time of eventually maybe the existing exam system would be phased out, and what's learned, the good. But that's what Malcolm. Deirdre, you don't have to shake your head, because that's what Malcolm Brown said. I'm not expressing an opinion. I'm just giving everyone the story.
Okay.
So that was since then. I mean, there is the present, just to be clear, which I think is what Deirdre wanted to convey. To be clear, there is no intention at the moment in RSCDS headquarters to make any major changes in the current unit exam system. I think the idea is, well, the CTI has barely started at the moment, especially because the pandemic slowed everything down considerably. But I think the feeling is, well, let's see what we can learn from the CTI, especially in terms of the use of video, which is coming back to your question, Jeffrey. To what extent can we use video as a substitute for other forms of assessment, or in-person forms of assessment? And so that's something that we still got to learn about. And as the years go by, I think I wouldn't be surprised if we discover a lot of advantages of the CTI, because it does take a more rounded view of the role of a teacher. You don't have to only learn to teach 16 bars, for example, as a result of the first 2 weeks of training. So yeah, I think there are a lot of things that we can learn from the CTI, and whether how that impacts on the current unit system is something that remains to be seen.
Cheryl, would you like to unmute and ask your question?
Yeah, I have a very practical question, in that we have a dancer, a very lovely dancer, who could pass the other exams, but for personal reasons is very interested in doing the CTI course. So how do, and I'm sure if I read all the information that through the websites that Deidre provided, it would probably tell me this, but how do we go about getting a list of people that she could choose someone to be her mentor, or how does that part work, getting her connected with one of the trainers?
You want me to answer that? She has to apply to Coates Crescent, and in her application form, it asks, they will send you a list of the trainers. And from the list of trainers, of which there are 34 at the moment, she makes her first and her second choice. The RSCDS then contacts the trainers, who then would contact her. If she already knows who she wants her trainer to be, she puts that on the application form. But she needs to read a lot of the information under Learn on the website first, so that she knows what she's letting herself in for that.
And Deirdre, you were next with a question, I think.
Yes, I had a comment for what Chris was saying. In actual fact, in the unit system, we have used video to, when Keith was tutoring a whole crowd of people down between Virginia, Tennessee, North Carolina, Florida, and whatever's in between, Atlanta, whatever that's in, Georgia. In between, we had to go down for weekends, which took us 2 days each day, I might add, to drive. And in between, a local teacher was looking after them, and he would video the class and send it up to be looked at by the tutor. So that has been used in the unit system as part of the teaching process, and worked very well, I might add.
Ken, you were next. And you're, yeah.
Yes, I've just unmuted. So thank you very much for giving the comparison there, Deirdre, in your presentation. But if I were a recently graduated full certification teacher, and I'm actually quite recent compared with most people, couple of years, but quite recent. But if I just finished it and I decided I still needed some other things, if I did CTI, what benefits might I get out of it, if any?
Well, you already have the qualifications.
Yes.
So I don't know if a teacher who had just qualified would want to become a trainee, but I don't suppose there's anything preventing them from doing it.
Well, let me give you a personal experience. After I finished my part 1, I actually did the basic training with Ron Wallace. And I learned a tremendous amount from Ron that I didn't learn in the part 1. So I do have experience of doing something different and learning from it. So I'm just wondering if CTI would give something also.
Well, it would give you, because if you read all the accompanying information, you can see that they're very, very thorough about what they're teaching and how they teach it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a great deal of detail upon how to teach that the trainer would go into, because you have that refresher trainer course that the trainer must have before they can be a trainer and train the trainees, because they are still learning to teach. The trainees are still learning to teach in the same way as the units, and they're still looking at a great deal of the same information and the same background. And it's a good refresher. But I suppose you could maybe shadow a trainee if you wished.
Okay.
It's a good question, Ken. And the thing about the CTI is that the trainees will not all be people who are just keen dancers and never done any teaching. I know around here in Leicestershire and Lincolnshire, in England, I know a bunch of people who are good dancers, who don't have any RSCDS qualification except basic teaching skills that Sue and I did with them a few years ago. But they're pretty experienced teachers already, and one of them has already sent in his £40 to headquarters, but he doesn't need a lot in order to reach the level that's called for in the CTI. There's probably at least half of the boxes. Sue's going to be his trainer. At least half the boxes she could tick already, and so it could be like you're saying, Ken. That there may be a few areas where a newer teacher lacks some skill or other, but there are other areas where they're already very strong, and the CTI is very flexible. All you need to do is work on the areas that still need to be worked on, and then you can be passed for that's qualifying for it.
Roberta, would you like to unmute and ask your question?
Yes, thank you. So some people have covered some of my questions, but I do have a question. I know some people who had started the units process, and well, they're, in the middle of it. And in some cases, they didn't pass all the units that they've gone through. And I would imagine some of them might be interested now in switching to CTI now that it's an option. So is there any consideration or anything specific to think about for those people who are already in the process, but say, hey, if I knew this was going to happen, I would have opted for this option?
It doesn't give you any credits if you go into CTI and you've already, because it's a completely separate system.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly, if you want to, if you're partway through the units and maybe managed a couple of the units, if you wish to do CTI, you certainly could. And you might find that more relaxing and not nearly as stressful as doing the unit system.
Right. I mean, some of them are teaching classes and might be actually very close, to.
Yes, well, as Chris says, some of the people going in for CTI probably are very good teachers and have done a great deal already, in which case they just need to complete the number of boxes ticked, go for the core skills and the tasks that are set. Then they would receive the qualification of an instructor. It's within 2 years. It does not need to take the entire 2 years. It might take considerably less than that, depending on the person and in their experience. But they can certainly do CTI.
All right, thank you.
Jeffrey, would you like to ask your question?
Is it appropriate to make a comment, or could it only be a question?
Either, that's fine.
Okay,
Sure.
I'm just was thinking about Ken's question about someone who has gone through the training and then possibly doing the CTI. And what I was thinking back to was what Chris presented in the original strategic planning and thinking of the RSCDS, that there needed to be more flexibility, more social skills, more kind of a friendlier, more people-centered process rather than so technique-focused. And given the pressure on candidates to, get through all of the technical parts of the training for their exam, there isn't a lot of time for all that other stuff. I remember once at a course, in fact, it was the course Chris was in way back in the early 2000s, I had some evening sessions to talk about and go over some of the issues for candidates that aren't part of the exam, but were really basic for teaching. And what the candidates told me at the end was, they wished we hadn't done that because they needed more study time. And so
I don't agree with that.
What? I'm sorry?
No, I welcomed it, Jeffrey.
Okay, well, many people, the prevailing feedback was people wanted to study. And but the reason I'm mentioning that is that because there's so much to be covered in the 2 weeks, if it's done at a summer school or in the at home in a course, there just isn't a lot of time for how to write a good program, how to deal with people, how to deal with difficult people, things like that, all of which might come up in the CTI. And I would think for a person who has done the formal training, I shouldn't say the formal, the unit training, CTI might allow them to focus on those other aspects of teaching, which I think we've all come to realize are very, very important.
Go ahead, Sharon.
It's my understanding that there's also going to be some treasure box modules put together that include videos or written materials on things, just like Jeffrey was saying, things on how to put together a good program, how to MC, choosing music, those kinds of things. I don't know where ENT is with that treasure box yet, but maybe somebody has more information on that.
That is being looked at. They're working on the inspiration for Scottish country dance, and the toolbox, I think it's a toolbox, eventually will be produced with videos and other helpful teaching hints on how to teach to help the trainees, especially if they're working from a distance.
Yeah,
And actually help anybody. It'll be available to anybody who wants to look at it.
Yeah. So just to add to that, it was in the what ENT came up with a couple of years ago, and Ellie would probably remember this. It was envisaged that by the time the CTI started rolling, which is roundabout now, that there would be videos already available, which would show good examples of one kind of teaching one kind of thing or another. But then the pandemic kind of made it difficult to do that. But I hope it's Deirdre that I'm addressing you now, since you're still on the committee, and Ellie, assuming you're on the committee. I think this is something that should be given priority, because it's something the trainees, the CTI trainees are supposed to be able to lean on in order as part of their training process.
Well, as you said, yes, COVID put paid to doing anything about it. But now that people are beginning to go back in classes, they'll be able to do something about that. That certainly is their intention. But with nobody in class, we couldn't do anything about it at all, had to wait. And there wasn't anything already there that was totally suitable to use, because they looked into it. So that will be addressed, yes.
Any other questions, anybody? Comments?
Okay, well, I'm just thinking, I'm putting Chris and Deirdre on the spot here, but if there are any other questions that come up, we all know each other. And there's email and FaceTime and all that sort of thing. But thank you very much, both Deirdre and Chris, for taking us through that. I certainly found it helpful, and I got the sense other people did. So I'll send some notes out after the meeting, but probably not much actually, since we've recorded this and can share the link, and we'll look for other places to share the link also. But I would encourage all of you to actually send the information further on. We've had actually several people have reached out and said, could I, I'm not an area rep, but could I join? Or my friend's not an area rep, could they join? And I actually pushed back on them because I was a little concerned that, you know, it was disempowering us. But so any more questions, please send them in. And when we disseminate the information, please send it out. If we're finished on that, there was two other things. Actually, one I can cover very quickly and sort of relates, which is that Gail Forster actually asked if we would send out the reminder that there is a candidate class next in the summer. So I will add that to the notes that come out afterwards and ask that you send that on. The other thing that we wanted to cover, when I put this meeting together, I went for a Sunday, which seemed to be generally preferred, thinking about other things and a time of day, but I didn't actually ask anybody. So thinking forward in providing more options or better options for people to attend, we have a little poll to just ask you your preferences on when you would like to meet remotely again. Not when in the year, but what day of the week and what time of day. And I think, Alison, can you put those polls up for people to look at? Oh, there we go. So if you would like to vote, please do. There's a couple of questions there. Do you prefer Saturday, Sunday, or a weekday? And also, which is the best time period? And those time periods, by the way, are all on East Coast time. And it's not to suggest that meetings are 3 hours long, they're just time slots. The third question is which weekday, but it presumes people would prefer a weekend. So, but you can answer that too if you wish. But there we go. So, please go ahead and vote. Oh, I guess I can't vote because I'm a host.
Can you put the voting poll up again, please?
If I do that, the one person who voted will be deleted. I can
Okay,
relaunch
fine.
if everybody's willing to do it again. All right, here it comes.
Thank you.
Are you saying we should vote again?
Yes, please.
Can't submit if I haven't clicked the third one, but I voted for a weekend. How does that work?
If you voted for a weekend, we'll ignore what comes below.
But I can't click submit.
Oh, yeah, but just vote below and we'll just ignore what's in your third vote. I'm a bit of a novice at setting up polls, and I thought that they were three independent questions, but unfortunately it's a whole poll with 3 questions.
Yeah, another time, Ken, we should do it as 3 separate questions.
Yeah, well, there we go. I need some
That's okay.
continuing education on polling.
That's okay.
Yeah. I'm afraid I don't think I voted.
No, you can't, Chris, because you're a host. Would you want me to take you off being a host so that you can?
No, okay, I didn't understand. No, that's fine. Leave it the way it is. Except I don't want anything. I don't want anything before about 3 o'clock where you guys are.
Yeah. Actually, Ken would have to remove you as a co-host. I can't do it.
Don't worry.
Ken, another thing about the poll was, I don't care if it's Saturday or Sunday, but it makes us choose either Saturday or Sunday. So I picked Saturday, but Sunday's all right for me also.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Every time you do something like this, you have to, it's a whole learning experience, I know.
So has everybody voted?
It appears we have, yeah, looks like it.
13. Well, there's 13 less, 19 less 4 is 15. So there's 2 people that haven't voted. And
Well, I'm not an area rep, so I can't.
Oh, right. Yes, Hazel? Oh, you have to
You're
put,
also a co-host and you can't. So, but I think it looks pretty obvious, doesn't it?
Hazel, you need to unmute if you want to ask a question, my dear.
I can't submit like Jeffrey. It does not allow me to.
Oh, how weird. Well, I guess 13 is all we're going to get, Ken. Shall I end the poll?
I think so, yeah. Sorry you can't submit. One shortcoming of Zoom, apart from my inability to write polls very well, is that all different interfaces are slightly different. But yes, let's look at the results. I think it's pretty clear for a Sunday, doesn't it?
Okay, I think I shared results.
Yep.
So it looks like Sunday, 12 to 3.
12 to 3 East Coast time. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. That's very helpful, because the last time, as I say, when I set up this meeting, I talked to a couple of people and then just pushed ahead because we had to get the vote moving. But so it looks like the same. I did actually by accident choose a reasonable time slot. I'll look to a little later in that time period because some of the people on the West Coast were a little concerned about getting home from church and being in the choir. So that's good. Okay, I think that's great. We have fulfilled our agenda. So thank you very much. Is there anything anybody wants to raise in the last few moments? And so we can.
Jeffrey, go ahead.
I just wanted to say this was very, very helpful. I mean, I watched Cecily go through the training, or I should say I listened to it. And so I had pretty good sense. I thought, Chris, you and Deirdre just did a really good job of summarizing this in a very non-judgmental way. Just these are the facts, and I really appreciate that. And Ken, thanks for organizing this very much. It's kind of nice to be able to get together with everybody, even if we can't be in the same room.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you, Jeffrey. We'll try and find something equally good to talk about next time.
Really nice to see everybody. I'm not an area rep, but it's a real treat to see all my friends. So
Yes,
Kenny,
thank you for
did you
organizing.
say that this was recorded? Because I'm apologizing for arriving so late.
Yes. Yes,
Yes,
it is recorded,
it-
Ellie.
It has been recorded, and I'm actually going to stop recording now, and hopefully we'll figure out where it is there.
It's probably somewhere in the Mojave